boys and girls. I am really glad to see you today. Did you have a good weekend? A good holiday weekend? Did you have any picnics with your family? Did you go out and see some fireworks in the sky? I saw fireworks. Lots of my neighbors were having sparklers and lots of things that were bright and shiny in the night. You know, it's kind of interesting to think about how we do those things at night, because that's when they're the brightest and easiest to see. But what if we didn't have night? Why do we have night? Did you ever think about that? You probably know things about how the earth spins around and goes around the sun, and that's why we have day and night and summer and winter. You know, a long time ago, they didn't know those things, and so they had to make up stories about why they thought we had those things. They shared stories with each other, and I'm still sharing stories with you. And I'm really glad that you came to share some with me today. Do you want to get started? I do. Here we go. Clap your hands if you love stories. Clap your hands, I know you do. I'm so glad that we could be together. Glad to share a story time with you. Now, you know, if you watch our other story times, that on the other story times, we do a lot of reading books, picture books, and showing the pictures and reading the words that are on the page, right? But in this story time, we don't do a whole lot of that. What I've been telling you mostly are fairy tales and folk tales. And the thing about a folk tale is it might be in a book, someone might have written it down, but that's not usually how they get started. Someone comes up with a story and they tell it to someone else who tells it to someone else. Sometimes they tell their children, who grow up and tell their children, who tell their children. And a lot of the time, it changes every time someone tells it. And that's sort of what makes a folk tale a folk tale. And they are all over the world. In every country, we've got folk tales that are part of that country's culture. A lot of times, folk tales start as a way of explaining why things are, why we have stars, why cats have tails, why frogs don't have tails. And the one I'm going to tell you today, right now, is why the sun and the moon live in the sky. This is an African folk tale, and I won't say that it's native to any one part of Africa. Africa's a really big place, but there are stories like it that come from all over, lots of different countries in Africa. So the way it goes is this. A long time ago, the sun and the water both lived on Earth together, and they were really good friends. They liked to spend a lot of time together, talking and playing games and having fun. And the sun was always over visiting the water. But after a long while, the sun noticed that that's usually the way it worked. Water didn't come to visit him very often at all. Never. And so he asked, "Why don't you come over and visit me, Water?" And Water said, "Well, here's the thing. We wouldn't fit if I brought all of my people to visit you. There are a lot of us, and we take up a lot of room. If you wanted us to come visit you, you would have to build a really, really big house for us." And Sun said, "Well, I can do that. That's not a problem." And so he went home to his wife, the moon, and he told her what he had in mind, and between the two of them, they built a really big house. And then Sun went back to Water and said, "I've done it. Now you can come visit me." And Water went and looked and said, "It's not big enough. I need it to be even bigger." And Sun went back and he built more. And he went back and Water said, "All right, we'll come to visit you." And so Sun went back and waited at the house with the moon, and Water came to visit. And at first, only some of Water's people came inside. And it filled the house up to Sun's waist. And Water said, "You know, all of my people are still not here." And the Sun said, "More can come in. Bring them in, some more." And Water said, "All right." And he started bringing in more of his people. And now the water was almost halfway up the walls. And he said, "There's still more of us." And Sun said, "Bring in all of your people." And so Water did. He brought in all of his people, and Sun and Moon couldn't fit anymore. They had to climb up on the roof of their house. because there was no room left for anything other than water. And eventually, as water kept spilling out of the windows and out of the door, sun and moon had to fly up into the sky because there was no room left for them down on the earth. And that's why the sun and the moon live up in the sky today. All right, so for our finger play today, I want you to show me, can you make a spider? Ooh, that's a creepy spider. Is your spider a nice spider? I won't be afraid of it if you tell me it's a nice spider. So I want you to sing this with me and make your spider crawl around, okay? I have a little spider, I'm very fond of him. He climbs onto my shoulder and then onto my chin. He climbs down my arm and then down my leg. And then he's very tired, so we put him back to bed. Can you do that again? Make your spider. I have a little spider, I'm very fond of him. He climbs onto my shoulder and then onto my chin. He climbs down my arm and then down my leg. Ooh, that tickles. And then he's very tired, so we put him back to bed. Good job. Our second story today is another folk tale. You know, the first one was from Africa. This one is actually from America, North America. But it was a long time ago, before the United States, when they started telling this one. And it comes from a group of tribes of indigenous Americans called the Twana. They lived in the Pacific Northwest. And this one tells the story of how we got daylight. You see, a long time ago, according to the story, there was no daylight. And everything we did, working, playing, eating, all of it was done in the pitch black. Now the ants worked very hard then, just as they work now. And it was harder to do what they wanted to do. Most of the time, ants live under the ground where it's dark anyway, but sometimes they would have to leave the ant nest to go find food and do other things. And they couldn't see where they were going. And also, sometimes, what they thought was a great big monster would reach down into their home and take some of them. This monster, well, it was a grizzly bear. To them, that looked like a really big monster. We know sometimes bears will dig in the ground or dig in tree stumps and find ants to eat. That's what was happening. Well, the ants one day came to a decision. They said, things would be easier for us if we had some light, if we could see what we were doing. It would make it easier for us to escape monsters. It would just make it easier for us to do our work and find food. And so Ant Woman, the leader, she was smarter than all the rest, decided she was going to go to the Creator and ask if they could have this change. And so she set out to meet the Creator. Little did she know, Bear was following behind, curious to see what was going on. And when the Ant Woman finally came to the Creator, she said, "Oh, Creator, please give my people light so that we can see and work." But before she could even stop speaking, Bear stepped out to where the Creator could see him too and said, "I don't want you to listen to her, please. Don't give them what they want. I like it to be dark. I want it always to be dark so I can sleep and be cool and not overheated." And the Creator thought to himself, he said, "I will have a contest. I will have a dance contest, and the winner of the contest will be the one who gets what they want." And so everyone came from far and wide to watch this contest. And while they were preparing, there was a lot of partying and there was a lot of food. And Bear was very, very greedy. And so he ate and ate and ate and had himself a good time. Well, Ant Woman prepared. She rested and planned and tightened her belt as she grew hungry but didn't stop to eat. When the contest finally started, first, the Ant Woman stood up and said, "I am Ant Woman, and I dance for light." And she danced and danced, and she was very graceful, and lots of little tiny delicate movements, and it was beautiful. And when she had finished, Bear stood up, wiped the crumbs from his mouth, and said, "I am Bear, and I dance for night." And he started to dance. But bears aren't naturally all that graceful anyway, necessarily. And this bear had been eating for days and not planning. And so his dance was slow and cumbersome and kind of clumsy, and he finished. And then the ant woman got up and took her turn again. And the contest went on for days, during which time, every time he finished dancing, Bear would eat some more and party some more, and Ant Woman would just tighten her belt tighter and tighter before she would get up and dance again. And finally, after 4 days, Bear was so tired and full that he simply couldn't dance another step. And the creator said, Ant Woman has won, but I love both of my creations, both the ants and the bears. And so I will give you both what you want. Daylight for the ant people and nighttime for the bear. And that's the way it is today. We have day and night. And if you'll notice, if you ever look at an ant, her little middle is very, very tiny because of the way she tightened her belt all those times while she was working to earn daylight for her people. All right, you guys are ready to sing? Today we've got one of those songs where you start by singing just a small part and then you keep singing it over and over again, but you add things to it, or again and again and again. You just keep adding and adding until eventually you've got something that's really long and confusing and hard to remember and makes your tongue trip over itself in your mouth, and it's just completely silly and funny. And there's a word for songs like this. They're called additive songs, because you keep adding things. One of them you might remember when we did The Green Grass Grew All Around and Around? Remember, there's a branch on the trunk and the root and the root, the hole in the ground, and the green grass grew all around and around, and the green grass grew all around. Remember that? All right, well, the one we're going to do today is called There's a Hole in the Bottom of the Sea. And what I need from you guys, I need you guys to maybe clap your hands, or if you've got a shaky egg, or if you've got any kind of a rattle, I need you guys to help keep the beat for me. And help keep me from slowing down and help keep me from stopping, even if my tongue gets confused and I say the wrong words and I get all kinds of confused. You just gotta help push it along and keep me going no matter what. All right? And no laughing at me if I mess up. All right, you ready? There's a hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a hole, there's a hole. There's a hole in the bottom of the sea. Pretty easy. There's a log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a log, there's a log, there's a log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a branch on the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a branch on the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a branch, there's a branch, there's a branch in the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a bump on the branch and the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a bump on the branch and the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a bump, there's a bump, there's a bump on the branch and the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a frog on the bump on the branch and the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a frog on the bump on the branch and the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a frog, there's a frog, there's a frog on the bump on the branch and the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a tail on the frog on the bump on the branch and the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a tail on the frog on the bump on the branch and the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a tail, there's a tail, there's a tail on the frog on the bump on the branch on the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a speck on the tail on the frog on the bump on the branch and the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a speck on the tail on the frog on the bump on the branch of the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a speck, there's a speck, there's a speck on the tail on the frog on the bump on the branch on the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a fleck on the speck on the tail on the frog on the bump on the branch and the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a speck on the fleck on the tail on the frog on the bump on the branch and the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a speck, there's a fleck, there's a fleck, there's a fleck on the speck on the tail on the frog and the bump on the log and the hole in the bottom of the sea. I think I forgot the branch on the last one. We'll get it next time, right? You got to practice and we'll do that again next time. Maybe. Did you like the stories today? I'm glad you came. Which one was your favorite? Did you like hearing about why the sun and the moon are up in the sky? Or did you like the one about why we have daylight? I like that one too. I can't wait to see you again next week, and we're going to share some more stories. And I hope that you're doing all the other programs the library has this summer. And if you want to keep track of what's going on, you can always go to the website, the library's website, racinelibrary.info, and subscribe to our newsletter. Have mom and dad get that so it comes in their email and tells you all the fun things that we're doing through the library. And I hope you're keeping track of your reading and keeping track of how many minutes you spend every day reading. It's very important. Very important to read. It's kind of important to have fun with the contest too. All right, let's get a big stretch, should we? Let me see you get those arms way up in the air. How high can you go? Reach for the ceiling. Oh, and now touch the floor. Stand up again. Let's do some more. Touch your head. And now your knees. Up to your shoulders. Like this, you see. Reach for the ceiling. Oh, and touch the floor. That's all there is. There isn't any more. Give yourself a great big hug for me, okay? I miss seeing you guys in person. I really, really do. And I cannot wait to be able to see you again. Bye-bye.